Throughout my life, I've read more than 350 fantasy books, and although my favorites tend to be adult fantasy stories, there are some hidden gems, so young adult stories that are really perfect, and here are 10 young adult stories that are also perfect for adult readers. And let's start with the honorable mention, that is Mistborn. I'm not really counting it in the list because I think that as of now, it has enough popularity for you to already pick this one up. The line between what is young adult and what is adult, I think in Mistborn it's really blurry. It has such great characters, amazing magic system, and although I read it more than 13 years ago, this is a story that completely grabbed me, and it's one of the reasons why I really love fantasy. It has a great heist with an underlying conflict of the society about to uprise. They have been really oppressed throughout the years because the bad one has been ruling for centuries, and people has the ability to have special powers if they ingest metals, and that is part of the charm of this story. The magic system, it's outstanding, but also the characters feel really well fleshed out. The stakes are really high from book one, and to me it's the perfect combination if you want something that it's easy to read but at the same time has these amazing stakes, great world building, fantastic magic, and characters that are to die for. Okay, now in the top 10 we have Scythe, a story that I've just read recently, and although I got this recommended time and time again, I was like,
yeah, I will eventually get it a try.
And when I did, wow, it's basically a story that it themes really adult. We will follow these characters, this society that has gotten into the point in which they cannot die, and therefore we need people in order to do that job. But you can only be a reaper if you don't want to kill people. So you see, the main theme of this book is already super great. We will be talking about how these characters will need to get to this role and everything that unfolds. I thought it was deeply fascinating. The characters, the pacing, I thought it was really well done, and I cannot wait to keep reading this story, which was super addictive, and I read it so fast. In the top 9 we have a standalone that I believe it's perfect if you enjoy gloomy and slightly fairy tale-esque stories, and that is The Kingdom of Bag. This story does read young, however the theme, it is very sad, and it has this second layer that if you read it and you're trying to understand what the author is talking about, you can be really moved. It's kind of like watching a Pixar movie. Like, originally it might be for kids, but it really isn't, and that is the case here. We follow Nannerl Mozart, and she's sister of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, and this is real. She was also a very gifted musician, and she started to shine for a time, but then we need to face the situation of just being a woman in this society, and together she and Wolfgang created this portal imaginary world called the Kingdom of Bag, and this was the place in which they kind of went whenever they were in long travel. So it has that fairy tale-esque kind of fae characters with this rich underworld or otherworld that we imagine. So it has this beautiful side to it, but again it's very gloomy. It's set always like in Vienna, in these different cities that are also very vibey, and it is fairly sad. It got me some tears, and it is a story that really will fill you if you want something that is both beautiful, slightly sad, but inspiring in a way. In the top 8, and we have here a commendation for Murphy, it's The Last Quintia, and I think this is actually middle grade, but let me tell you, this reads adult. It's again a standalone, which I absolutely adored, and its prose was so beautiful already from the beginning. Like, the first paragraph already told me that this was going to be a book that I was going to really enjoy. We all know that Murphy has a great taste while recommending books, but you know, yes, I can support that. This is a story that leans more towards the sci-fi side, and it is very interesting because we will be following this girl called Petra, and she is kind of like a child, and she is facing this moment in which society is dying, the earth is dying, and a few selected are able to go embark on this ship and, you know, go to another world. They're going to be put to sleep and things will happen, right? And her family has been picked because they are biologists and they have a very important role. And she has this dream of becoming the last Quintista, or the last storyteller. She very sadly needs to leave part of her family here. So this is a mission that she will hold real dear to her heart. And it talks about themes of growing up, of really finding your place, of changing and reminiscing the past, but also creating a new future. But honestly, there are some themes, some scenes that happened that I thought were really dark. They were fascinating. The pacing was on point. It was beautiful, but also, again, savage at some points. And I cannot recommend more if you want something that is quick, that it's easy, and that will make you think about space and purpose. In the top 6, and I bet you're surprised to see this one here, we have Six of Crows, this duology by Lee Bardugo, super popular, and it is for a reason. I did not read this until 3 years ago or something. I read Shadow and Bone and it wasn't for me. However, Six of Crows really create something with the character, not only because there's an amazing heist and the stakes are pretty high from the beginning. There's also a little bit of magic, but it's not super high magic, but it's mainly because of the characters. The main, you can say, protagonist, Casbreaker, he is one of the most grey characters that we have in the young adult world. And I thought it was deeply fascinating. All of these different characters are not necessarily good because they are bandits. They are really not cool people. They want to be rich, so their motivations is not to save the world. They want to be rich. They're willing to bet on their lives in order to become richer. So that's the main thing. But then
the magic of this book,
it's really the character dynamics, how these characters evolve, their arc, scenes that happen that I won't be able to forget in my whole life. It is fascinating. I really, really loved it. It's concluded. It's a duology and it's deeply, deeply perfect. I really loved it. And if you like what you're hearing so far, well, you know what to do. So let's go to the top 5. In the top 5, we have a hidden gem that you need to know now, and that is A Dark Rise by C.S. Pacat. I loved this story. I don't know what happened with it because when it was released, it got a lot of hype, but then it quietly died down, and I don't think it's very popular here on BookTube, but really it should. It not only has a very vibrant, atmospheric, vibey London setting, but it is also really interesting. It's this also fight between the good and the evil. We have these stewards, and one of the main characters is also such a morally great character, and I loved it to pieces. I thought the beginning and the end were phenomenal. The pacing was so good, and although there are scenes that will let you know that our characters are still, teenagers that are trying to do
the best with their lives,
it feels adult in the sense of things will go down, and you will see how our characters descend into utter chaos, and they are forced to do a lot of incredible things. I really, really loved it. It has a very compelling character, and it's fairly dark, and it's basically a story of this world where the evil previously reigned, and something happened that these stewards, this society, were able to call it out, and this darkness was kind of like unsealed. But this darkness is emerging again, and no one really remembers what happened. And these stewards are contacting our main character because he might have a tiny little bit of magic, and he might be the only one able to stop this dark that is rising again. Also in the top 5, because I was not able to really rank it, we have The Founders Trilogy by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is hands down one of the best young adult stories for adult readers because it vendors genres. We have fantasy and we will have sci-fi. It has a hard magic system that is incredibly compelling, but also a heist, and the stakes for each of these books just will increase so much. It's probably one of the completed series that has the highest stakes that I've seen. In a sense, to me, it was similar to what I felt with Mistborn, and that is saying something. In here, we will follow Sanshia, and she has the unique ability to be able to touch objects, and those objects can tell her stuff, right? Like she can sense what these objects are feeling. And in this world, there are kind of like different houses, and they have discovered this magic in which they can inscribe things on elements and they can command them. But these different houses are really taking this knowledge as intellectual property. So everyone is kind of like very secretive. There's a lot of different, tension between these different houses, and this will play a role throughout the story. So it's tiny little bit political, not really, it's more action based, but you will see those tensions between these different houses, and especially we will see that Arga is going to be tasked with stealing something, and after doing so, every house will try to kill her, and she will be like,
what is happening here?
And that's the point where the story unravels. It is really the ultimate heist. I loved the characters here. There's a sentient object, which to me was perfect, very Warbreaker oriented. If you loved Nightblood from Warbreaker, I think you will love this one as well. It's really a great story where you will find misfits and this family fun vibe which never fails to make it a great read in my opinion. Now in the top 4 we have Strange the Dreamer. This is a completed duology as well, and I reckon this is probably not for all of you readers. So if you're an adult reader that really likes your dark stuff, maybe this is not going to be for you because it's borderline pulp prose. It is really lyrical, and I think the magic of this book is how beautifully it's written. The story, it's a little bit slow paced, but there's a great character development. And what I believe this story, it's perfect also for adult readers, is because the theme in itself that it's explored feels adult, and the things that our characters will need to pass, the decisions that we see also feel adult. And the tropes, yes, it's kind of like a chosen one. It's growing up in a way, first loves, and all of those really young adult vibes, but done in a world that feels so lush, so beautiful. And now that we're seeing a rise of cozy fantasy, I really believe that although this does not fall into that category, this really falls into the you will feel a lot. This is the first book that made me cry in such a long time, and if you enjoy that fairy tale magic exists kind of vibe, in here we have the story of Laszlo and Sarai. So it's a dual point of view, and we'll mainly follow this guy Laszlo, and he has always been obsessed with this magical mystical city called Weep. This city has disappeared. No one really believes that this city exists except Laszlo, and one day he will be surprised because people from Weep are coming to his town to ask for help. So he's like, yes, I will go. And the story unfolds from there, but it's beautiful. In the top 3, we have an unconcluded story that has not failed to surprise me whenever book 1 and 2 have been released, and that is Legendborn by Tracy DeYoung. This is a very unique blend because it not only has this Arthurian mythology kind of elements, but we will also see different type of magic, in this case root magic. And the thing that makes this book for me as great also for adult readers, it's because the author will bring us into this world that it's not easy. There's a lot of different elements, there's a lot of info dump, but at the same time you need to remember all of that. So there's a somewhat complex world building here because of that rich legacy of the Arthurian mythology, but how it's trying to blend the story with root magic, which it's also very unique, and it was the first time that I read it. This story follows Bree, and she is coping with the death of her mom, and I think it's, if not the best, one of the best stories where I've seen grief portrayed in a way that really made me sad, made me angry, but at the same time almost made me cope with very strong emotions myself. The magic, it's interesting. Yes, there's a little bit of a love triangle, yes, there is there, but still it does not feel like the main part of the story. It feels more coming of age, empowering yourself, knowing your roots, knowing your power. It is a story that will really explore racism, sexism, and also transgenerational chaos and pain and drama. And it is beautifully written. The characters are unforgettable, and I cannot wait for book 3. In the top 2, and maybe you will tell me that this should not be here, but I will say, if cozy fantasies have a space and people are enjoying it, I think this one is going to be for you. And that is The Shadow of the Fox by Julie Kagawa. It's also a completed trilogy, and man, I just loved it. I loved it so much. It is a quest, and it has that whimsical, cozy vibe with a beautiful world building. It has this feudal Japanese setting, and it is outstandingly beautiful. The descriptions are outstanding. The pacing was so fast. It is written in a way that feels like a video game, and it is cozy, and it's beautiful, and it has great stakes. And we have, yes, the Grumpy and the Sunshine character. We also has, a quest, growing up, chosen one, but it's done in a way that was very easy to read. It is surprisingly emotional. I know a lot of other readers that mainly read adult fantasy that really enjoy this one. Again, beware. This is more if you like that cozy vibe, those quests that will make you feel something. It's not all ways that you will feel happy, but it really made me feel alive. It also made me teared up at the end, and I just think it's perfect. It is also a dual perspective, and in one hand we will have this girl Yumeko, and she is a kitsune, so she is half woman, half fox, which already it's kind of like setting the stakes of folklore that are beautiful. And on the other hand we will have Tatsumi, and he is a samurai ninja. The thing is that this girl has been living in the shrine, and she has this mission of taking a small piece of scroll to safety, because if this scroll is put together, then a dragon will emerge and it will grant someone a wish. And as you know, a lot of people want this, and we don't want the wrong people making the wish to a dragon. So she is going to try to save us, and meanwhile Tatsumi will, find herself along the way. They will start this quest together, but he has an agenda of his own, because especially he has a secret. He has the ability to talk with a demon, and that makes it all very interesting. It really follows a very classic, going place after place after place. More people joins our quest throughout the way, and it was phenomenal. I really liked it. And in the top one, another concluded trilogy that it's within my favorites of all time, and I really think that you should read it. It's the Aurelian Cycle by Rosaria Munda. The first one, Fireborn. This is a story that will be perfect for you if you like political intrigue, characters that are nuanced, a situation that it's complex, you like military academic setting, you like dragons, and all in all, you like stakes to be high. And the foundation of this story follows the society where previously these dragon lords were ruling it, and one day the society rebelled against them, and they killed them, and now dragons can be accessed by more people, and society has rearranged. But we are starting to see the cracks of this new society that is not as perfect as we were thinking, and there is a lot of commentary around the society, around what is good and what is bad, what's the stand of what you need to do for the sake of the people. One of these two main characters, Annie, it's the best character that I've read in my life, probably. I really feel seen by her. There are also moody dragons, and they are phenomenal, and they play a role within the story. I thought it was fantastic. It is not a story that leans toward the romance side. There is tension, there is a slow burn, but it is definitely not the core of the story. So I think you will really enjoy it if you go with your expectations set that this is a story that follows more these character-driven action side, very political, society commentary kind of story, not really, romance. But I really loved it, and I still need to find a person that I've read this and has not liked it. So I dare you to pick one up, and come back and tell me that you did not, but hopefully you do. And these were the top 10 young adult stories that I believe are perfect for adult fantasy readers. But if you want more adult reads, here's a video where you can see what have been the best books for me this year. And thank you so much to my Patreons who joined the Ink in Society and are helping me and others keep the book spirits alive by reading. We have a monthly book club, weekly reading challenges, and we are really creating a home. So please join us and let the fun continue. Bye.